What's the point of sending emails if people don't open them, right? So, getting people to open your emails is, you know, sometimes the hardest part of email marketing, but it doesn't have to be that tricky. And the biggest thing that you'll know is that you need to test. So, all of the things that you're going to learn today are things that you can test in your email marketing to try to bump up and increase those open rates and not be clickbaity and spammy, because that's really something that we want to make sure we are not doing, that we're being authentic and real and genuine with our readers and the people that we're trying to engage with. So I have Liz Wilcox joining me today to talk through some ways to think about how we get people to be more engaged and open our emails. The fresh princess of email marketing, Liz Wilcox, is an email strategist and keynote speaker showing small businesses how to build online relationships, package up their magic, and turn it into emails that people want to read and, most importantly, purchase from. So many good things, good perspectives, and fresh ways to think about it, especially in light of all of the privacy changes that are happening and how we can really kind of figure out if it's working or if it's not. We know that email can be a very, very, very strong income generator across industries, across types of businesses. And so let's maximize that. And the way to increase some of that revenue from your emails is to get more people to open them. So I hope that you'll listen to this episode. And most of the tools and the things that she's talking about don't take a lot of time, if any. Just a different way to think about what you're already doing. So I love that when we can bring digital marketing tools that are not a whole new way of thinking things, just some minor ways to tweak and improve on what you're already doing that don't take a lot of extra time and effort. I'm all about it. I'm here for it. And I'm super excited about it. So take a listen to this episode and, email me, sammy@thefirstclick.net, and let me know kind of which tactic you're using and how it's working for you. But before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by the Online Fundraising Virtual Summit. The summit takes place on October 24th, 2022, and runs all week. We'll have 20-some speakers, sessions all day or all 5 days, all helping you build your monthly donor program. And you know that email marketing is part of that. So onlinefundraisingsummit.com, you can get all of the information. And I look forward to seeing you at the summit. For now, let's get into the episode. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business. Hey everybody, please join me in welcoming Liz Wilcox to the podcast. Liz, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I am so excited.
Yeah. Well, and email marketing is one of my favorite topics to talk about, so I'm really thrilled to be here. But before we kind of jump into subject lines or open rates and all of the good things that we're going to talk about today, kind of why is email marketing something that you think is an impactful part of an organization's marketing?
Yeah, so I think, especially with nonprofits, sometimes we can get caught up in the nonprofit of that and think, oh, we have to, it's a slow trek uphill, right? Trying to fundraise and things like that. But the nonprofit that can really harness the power of email marketing and understand, like, even if even though you're nonprofit, when you look at your email list as this, I don't know, I guess money-making machine, like this place where you can connect, you can drive your mission, but also raise funds, like that's going to change the game for you. It's the same as, when your board decides, okay, we're going to learn how to fundraise better. Like email marketing is one of those amazing ways that you can fundraise on a continuous basis. It's not like, oh, we've got to have this. I have a friend that has a nonprofit helping women with cancer, and she's doing this big like golfing Top Gun theme thing. And she's really, of course, that's pulling that off is really stressful. And I'm like, girl, just email your people. I bet you're going to, if you harness the power of your list, It's so much more low maintenance and it can still be high dollars. If you're looking at the profit space, people often say like for every dollar you spend with email marketing, you can make about $40 in return. Like imagine that for your nonprofit. Like for every like you're putting on a big event, like for every dollar you spend on that event, like are you making $40 in return? And if that is true, I don't know your organization, but like how much energy are you putting into that one, end of the year ball or, summer Top Gun golf,
Yeah.
whatever. But with email, it's just, you can do it on a continuous basis and you keep your organization on the top of people's heads. Like they're hearing from you, they're seeing where their dollars go. They feel like they're part of the mission, and that's going to drive even more dollars into your organization. And that is the power of email. There, I said it.
That was like all the goodness. Like you said all the things. I love that. And I'm really glad you brought up that stat of $1 to $40 because in the digital marketing space, there is nothing else that has the same ROI as email marketing.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not, an NPO expert, but I know, if I had an organization and, this mission I really believed in, like if I knew I could spend $1 and make 40, like I'm gonna at least experiment, right? And that's over
Mm-hmm.
long term. Of course, you're not gonna send out an email tomorrow and make all the money back from your service provider. But most service providers are relatively inexpensive in the first place. And so, you're gonna be able to see some returns. And again, like what I love about NPOs is they're so like mission and vision driven. If
Mm-hmm.
you can get more, like, isn't that the whole point, to get more people behind the vision and mission? And that's what email marketing does. I won't go on. I've already said it, but that is what I love about email so much. And I'm so glad Sammy shares the passion because it really is about like, hey, I can share my values. I always talk about with email sharing a little bit of personality, the vision and the values. And that
Mm-hmm.
is so simple for NPOs that already have that. You have, your vision of the future. You have your value set, and sharing that via email is so, so powerful.
So we're here today to talk about open rates because if you got all that amazing impact value stuff in your email, but nobody's opening them, then it doesn't matter, right? So, kind of if, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is something we can't control. I want to focus more on the things that we can control, but I do want to touch on the fact that, um, when we look at our statistics and our open rates and things, there are some things that just kind of show up that we can't control. iOS has their new updates. Privacy policies are always changing. So do you just have like a down and dirty, like how might we want to think about our open rate stats currently?
Sure. So, email metrics in general, you're going to want to think about what is the main point of email. If it's to raise more funds, there are different metrics you can look at. You can look at your open rate, but there are also other things. Look at the rate in which your email list is growing. Make sure you're tracking, are people actually clicking on my links? Not obsessively so, but once a month, look at the people that are leaving your list, right? How many people versus how many actually came on the list? Looking at, what percentage of my email list have actually donated, right? So not just looking at your open rate, but, kind of having that broader picture of like what is actually going on with my email list. I know for me, my number one metric is the number of customers. So yours translated to the NPO would be, number of donors, number of people maybe that we've gotten that were just fresh, hot off the internet streets or at events that haven't donated yet, and have they changed to donor status, right? So that I want you to think of your metrics not just as open rates, because like Sammy said, while open rates are not dead, MPP mail privacy protection, the Apple iOS updates have changed the game for us. So you want to have more data sets to look at. So with Sammy's question, I do still recommend looking at open rates. Some email marketers will tell you, oh, they're dead, they're unreliable. Like, let's go cry in a corner because that was our only way of knowing, right? But for me, the open rates, so what happens, and we won't spend too much time, but in a nutshell, if you use Apple Mail, Apple is now just telling people like me and Sammy that you automatically open our emails. If we send out an email and you open your emails with the Apple Mail, whether on your desktop or your phone, it's going to mark you open even if you didn't. So open rates are actually inflated. They're not going down, they're actually going up. And you can, if your email list is about a year old, you can look at your open rates from, let's say, July 2022 to July 2021 and kind of see, you can get an estimate. Of course, numbers are never accurate. Like I said it, sorry, data heads. Numbers are never accurate, but you can get a sort of big picture of, oh, my open rate seems to be inflated about 10% from last year. If you have no data, if you're brand new to the email, don't stress. Just know it's probably anywhere from 5 to 20% inflated. Not that many people use Apple Mail unless you're a company selling Apple apps, it's likely mostly accurate. And it's always consistently so. It's never going to be, unless you went to an Apple convention and got a bunch of Apple subscribers at once. Over time, every single week, mine is going to be about 10% inflated, right? So it's averaged out. So you can just assume in your head, hey, I've got this, number. It's probably more like, X minus 10 across the board. I hope that makes sense. That's in a nutshell, folks.
So it's more about looking at the trends over time. So like if all of this, as opposed to worrying about the specific number, right? So if all of a sudden you see your open rate spike on a particular email compared to what you normally have, then maybe that one was more engaging, more exciting, more whatever, right? But it's kind of creating that baseline now for yourself and then tracking against your baseline as opposed to really paying attention to what that percentage number is.
Yes. Sammy and I do not want you to obsess about the specific number, but exactly what she said. If there's a spike, up or down, then that's something to look at. And you can always just keep in the back of the head, like this is not wholly accurate. But again, going back to that first piece of advice of making sure you're tracking some other data or even just looking at it, right? Like we don't have to get out our Excel spreadsheet and be an email nerd like me. Like just looking at it and getting a feel is good enough. I just want you to email.
Yes. So let's assume that people are emailing on a regular basis. Let's assume that we are actively pulling in new donors, volunteers. We're actively growing our list. Let's assume that all of those things are in place. So if we have a healthy strategy for our email marketing, the only way to really grow and build and make money off of our donors is to continue to increase those open rates. So kind of what are some tips that you have for people on how to get more people to open and actively engage with those emails?
Yeah, so this might not be the advice you're expecting, but I really want you to start at the foundation first. It's like, you don't build a wall, like you just lay one brick at a time. And those first bricks are the most important, right? Because they're all, we've all played Jenga. If at the bottom it's getting iffy, it's all going to topple down, right? You're not going to get any donors. And so first and foremost, I'll give you the exciting stuff about subject lines in a minute. But first and foremost, I really want you to take a look at those first emails that you're sending out. Are you sharing the vision? Are you sharing the values of this NPO? And I know this might sound a little strange, but are you sharing a bit of personality, right? Like we
Yeah.
are living in a market, and whether you're for profit or not, like you're in the marketplace, right? And we are living in a market where people want to know people. And I think organizations have such a, I don't know, a leg up on this where you can really, dig into those values, but show off some personality, whether it's the head of the organization, the board of directors, someone on the board, some kind of chairman, like whoever, or just the person that writes the emails, like
Yeah.
just having a actual person write the emails versus like, oh, this is from Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? Like having an actual person behind the organization is going to make it personal. And email, I want you to think of it like the actual mailbox you're going to open from people you feel like like, of course, we all get the coupons and the commerce, and maybe you got some Etsy shops that send you some stuff. But like, if you can be an organization with real people behind it, with some personality, not only am I connecting to the mission, like, yes, we're going to eliminate drunk driving, right? That's my charity of choice. So that's the example I'm going with.
Fair enough.
If I know the story behind it, if I know the people on the board, I'm going to get more on board with you, right? I'm going to donate more money, or I'm going to share with friends that I know, have disposable incomes, things like that. If I know, like, oh, Sammy's going to email me once a month, with updates on this and on the mission, what progress they've made, that's really, really going to stand out. So back to how that applies to open rates, doing that in the welcome sequence, welcoming them with a real person. And again, whoever it is, saying, for me, of course, I'm not an MPO, so I say something silly like, as much as I love the idea, or as much as I love InSync, I love the idea of you making money with email more. So think about what's a one-liner that's whoever's writing your email. If you're writing, as much as I love this, like, I love the idea of you being a part of this organization even more, right? Like something like that. And it just shows a little personality, right? Maybe even just something as simple as putting a picture of your board in one of the welcome emails, or a picture of yourself, working on a project, right? That's really going to help you sustain email longevity, right? That subscriber is going to stay on instead of, oh, this is this nameless organization I donated $5 to because my friend shared it on Facebook, or I went
Yeah.
to an event and now they have my email. Instead, it's like, oh, wow, these are my dollars at work. And, Liz is super cool. Like, wow, she's actually doing XYZ, whatever it is. So making sure your welcome sequence shows off a bit of personality, right? Shows a little bit of person even, showing the values and the vision. I'm sure you already have something like that, but making sure it's very clear, right? And not, hoity-toity, this is, I copy and pasted my about page or,
Right.
about, but like really putting a bit of passion behind it, which should be relatively simple for you. And then sharing your values. There are all sorts of, I'm thinking of, my friend owns a nonprofit called Octo Nation, and it's like ocean conservation under the guise of educating people about octopuses. And he
Cool.
has a very specific value set that is different from other ocean conservations, right? He's not talking about save the whales, like he's doing it from an interest entertainment space, and he puts that forth. These are our values. This is what, we're trying to get young people into this, where another might be trying to get, older people with money, right? Or something like that. And so really just being very specific in your welcome sequence about what it is you value, the type of projects, you value and you like to do, things like that are really going to set you apart. And when you
Well,
set
and
that
that,
first one, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say that welcome sequence, the reason too, like, is so critical because the open rates on that initial email are going to be much higher than anything else that you send. So if you don't maximize on that opportunity, to your point, like you've lost that momentum to continue to get them to just be more emotionally engaged.
Yeah, 100%. That first email, like Sammy said, that's going to have the highest open rate that you could ever hope for, right? And so looking at that right now, like, going into your service provider, what is that first email, that second, that third, maybe even the fourth? And how can I, given what Liz just said, adjust this to, get it 5% higher, even 1%,
Mm-hmm.
if, let's set the bar low, right? And get it up, because if you can get those up, like let's say your first email is 80%, then it goes down to 60, 50, 45, whatever, that is going to set the bar for your newsletter, for those broadcasts that you send out once a month, twice a month, whatever. And so really looking at it instead like, oh, how can I improve my subject lines right now? Going in and, tweaking that welcome sequence to get it higher. Looking at your subject line, is it like, is it just, here's your guide, or thanks for the
Yep.
donation, or whatever? How can
Yep.
you, how can we, change that to get more people to open? How can we change the second email? How can we use the first email to get people to open the second, right? Something like that. And then we can get into how to tweak subject lines and things like that in the
Mm-hmm.
broadcasts, in the newsletters.
Yeah, and if you want the formula for how to create a welcome sequence, we do have that in episode 122. So you can go to the firstclick.net/122 and get a deep dive into welcome sequences, which is super awesome. So definitely check that out. But I also want to touch on, you kind of mentioned earlier, you said something like, if I'm getting an email like a welcome sequence from Mad, um, do you have any kind of thoughts on who that from name is? Like, should that be personal or should it be an organizational name? Like, how do we kind of play with that piece so that people know it's coming from an organization, but then also still have that personal touch?
Yes, I love this question. It should definitely have a person's name, and it can change, right? Like if so and so, if Max is writing it today, but Edna writes it next week, it can change. And so I would have your name or the person's name. And then what's that? I always forget the name, like that line, that horizontal, or
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I
that
don't know what that's called
vertical
either, but I
line.
love it.
Yeah, that vertical line. You can Google it and just copy and paste it. And then your organization's name. And because here's the thing, another missed opportunity in email marketing, a lot of people, again, think it's about the subject line. But if you can get it to where someone is searching for your name, right? They see your name, they see your organization's name, and they know they want to open it, right? It's way more effective than trying to, write clickbait subject lines every single
Yep.
week, right? And so it's the same as, like I said, the inbox is like the mailbox. If I go out to the mailbox right now, oh, that's a bill. I know I don't have to open that till the 12th. Oh, gosh, that's for John. He moved 3 years ago. Gosh, I wish they'd stop. Oh my gosh, Sammy wrote me something. I'm going to open it right away, right? If she sent you something, you'd be like, oh my gosh, my favorite podcast host. I'm going to open this, right? And so, how can you get the inbox like that? How can you be that in the inbox? So, I think it is important to put your name, Liz from Octonation, or, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And or just have the line, because it makes it personal. And it's like, oh, I love when Sammy emails me, let's see what she has to say. And if you can do email the right way, most people will just see the organization name and open it because they love the emails. They want to see, they donated last month and they want to see what the heck you're doing with the money, right? Or,
Mm-hmm.
they want to know where you're at with building your new building or whatever it is, right? and just coming from a person, it just means so much more. We all get those automated emails. We all get those like, please donate now.
Yep.
Lawmakers have like we need
Yes.
money. But if you can be a real person, be a real person.
I agree with that. And let's talk about this because you've mentioned clickbait and subject lines, and but let's talk about kind of the subject line and the preview text and kind of ways that we can use those to our advantage to get people to open the emails without it being like over the top. Like, how can we pull our personality into those things so that it's still engaging, and then how can we, this is a whole lot of questions all in one, but like how can we use the subject line and the preview text together to kind of build on the impact that's in the email?
Yeah, great question. So I think with the subject line, what you have to know is write it for a friend, right? Write it for that effect of, oh my gosh, Liz emailed me, Michelle emailed me, Sam emailed me, like whatever, right? And so I would suggest writing the email before you think, if you've got like, oh, I want to write about this topic, let me think of a title, basically. Don't do that. Just write the email. And as you're going through rereading it, if you were writing to me or Sammy, right, an actual friend, or, picture whoever, your buddy, what would the subject line be? And write that. It doesn't have to be clickbaity. If you have something clever, sure, go for it. But if you can't think of anything, just remember these words, like write it for a friend. So if I was, you know, I'm trying to think, so my buddy Warren with his Octonation, right? If something just happened, they just discovered another like plastic in the ocean island or something. My subject line might be something, if I was writing it to Sammy, I can't believe this happened again. I would literally write that to her, right? And without even trying, that is intriguing, right? Or, another plastic island, that is not clickbaity. But if I know, okay, I see, Warren from Octonation, if I know like, oh, he's the octopus guy, right? Oh, another plastic island. What? Right. And so using those together is really important. As far as preview text go, I don't want you to stress too much about it. You can pick, again, write your email first. And I think the preview text will sort of pop out at you. Write your email, think about the subject line, and then the preview text last. I personally have never used preview text. I've had 3 businesses. I've written probably 1 million emails by now. I've sent 1 million. I've probably written probably around 5,000 emails with different subject lines. I have literally never used preview text, so I don't want you to stress about it. It is a powerful tool, but if it is too much for you right now, just let it be what it is.
Just send the email.
Right. But if you want to use it, I would recommend just looking through your email, thinking about what subject line you picked. So for Warren, another plastic island, maybe the preview text would be that first suggestion I had, like, I can't believe this is happening again. Something like that. Or, are you as pissed as me? Excuse me. Whatever again, that's showing personality. Not every NPO would say that, right? Using it as a way to make that personal connection, drive that mission, I think is really, really good.
I think that's great too, because even if you have a donate call to action or you have a call to action in that email, you want people to open it and hear your story. So I kind of like how you're pulling this all together full circle, and that it's like, let's just be humans and have conversation. And that conversation can happen one-on-one with donors. It can happen on social media, but it can also happen in email. And if we show up authentically, then doing that all the way around is going to be impactful. But like, we don't want the subject line to be something like donate now. That's not going to get people to email or to open it. But if your content in your email is story, is authentic, is vision, focused first, then that helps us create those tools to get people to open the emails, which gets them to care more, which then gets them to donate. So it's kind of like whole circle, I guess. That wasn't a very eloquent way of saying it, but I think you you get what I'm saying.
I think we get you. For me, it's use the donate now. You can have those subject lines, but use them sparingly. If every single email is a pitch, for your next project, donate now. Of course, like technically you are a charity, but nobody wants that all the time, right? They start to feel guilty, like, oh, I don't have money. Oh, I can't,
Yeah.
now's not the time. Da 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 da, right? And so use those sparingly for when like you're doing a big push, like, you're having your Top Gun golf tournament, right? And for the people that couldn't come, right? Like maybe it's, a subject line, like can't make it in person, ? And then the preview text, like, donate online instead. Something,
Mhm.
and that's so much more gentle, but it's so much more human. But you can save up those donate now buttons for when you really are doing a push, when you're really doing a drive or whatever. But every single month or every single email, again, think about it from the donor perspective. Like, not everyone has money to donate every single month, and people might, it might take them years to donate. Like, they believe in the cause, but everybody's got their own money issues. That's a separate episode, right? And
That's a
it
whole other
might
thing.
take them, a year or two to donate. So using those sparingly, being a real person behind the organization is going to set you so
Mhm.
much further apart, and get you more donations in the long run to grow the
Yeah.
organization and the mission.
Well, Liz, I think you've given people a lot of things to think about when it comes to how they just kind of rethink what they're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, just starting to send emails is critical. Just start sending emails. But I think this episode is going to be great for folks to come back to, as you just kind of start to continue to grow, elevate, and like you said, increase those open rates based off of the core. If there's kind of like one last takeaway about getting people to open your emails or just email marketing in general, kind of what would you want to leave listeners with?
Yeah. If you can come at writing your emails from a fun and simple perspective, then people will look at your emails as fun and simple, and you'll get much better open rates.
Yeah. Short and sweet. I love that. Liz, if people want to know more about you and learn from you, how do they do that?
Oh, Sammy, I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. Of course, wow, she's good, folks. Let's leave her a 5-star review, will we? Okay, so you can go, of course, I'm an email marketer, right? So I want you on my email list. Come check out how I'm making this fun and simple. I know email marketing seems complicated. I want to uncomplicate it for you. And I really, truly mean that. So I want you to go to lizwilcox.com. In the top right-hand corner, you're going to see a hot pink button. You can't miss it. It says free email swipes. So I know Sammy has a separate episode and her own resource, but I also have a welcome sequence that's already written. You can take it and make it your own if you like that copy and paste style. But I also have 3 newsletter samples for you that are designed for 3 different purposes. Number 1, to get somebody to click. Number 2, how to get people to reply. And number 3, how to make sales. In your case, how to get donations, right? And those are already written. Those are templatized. And I give you examples so you can see what it would look like. It's not just a Mad Libs thing. You can see both. And then I'm going to give you, even though I said, like, don't worry about subject lines, you also get 52 subject lines completely for free. So you're going to see how I write a welcome sequence. You're going to have 3 newsletter, not only samples, but templates you can take and make your own right now, and 52 subject lines. So you never have to think of a topic from scratch, because that sucks. That's completely free. You can go to lizwilcox.com, hit that hot pink button.
That's so great. Amazing. Thank you so much. And we'll link all of that up in the show notes also. So you can find those at thefirstclick.net/podcast. So we will make sure that that's easy for you. Liz, this was amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. I can't wait to see what you do with email.
Big thank you to Liz for joining me today. I am so thankful for all of the tools and resources that she shared. You can go to thefirstclick.net/169 to check out the show notes from this episode and get all of the crazy information that she shared, crazy good information. And I hope that you'll make some of these tweaks and that maybe this will help you re-engage and get excited about email marketing again. For now, make sure you subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss out on a single episode. We have new episodes coming out every Tuesday. And head on over to thefirstclick.net/YouTube if you want to check out these in a video format. Leave us a 5-star review. We'd really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one.